Okay, the Rhetorics of Politics paper is our major paper 2. So major paper 1 was rhetorical analysis of an essay. This one is where you're going to be creating your own argument for whatever it is that you're going to get as your timed right when we meet in the next class period. So what it is going to be is an argumentative paper. So you want to form an argument regarding political rhetoric based on the language that you've seen in both the commercials and the speeches. So good idea between now and the timed right is to review the political commercials and the speeches so that you're kind of ready to go and you've got some idea about that. This is language and film styles. So you're going to be analyzing the findings of those pieces, those sources into an argument, which is going to be a timed right for you. It is, once again, because it's a major paper grade, it is 60% of your grade. And once again, you're going to have 3 drafts. 2 drafts are required, and 1, the final draft, is optional. It's going to be the same way we did major paper 1, where the first draft is the timed right with a little bit of tweaks to it. The second draft is based on my suggestions for you from the first draft. And if you don't like your grade on that draft, then you can do the third draft optional to have your grade changed. All right, so this is what you're going to be doing. You are going to be thinking about the characteristics of leadership and how they are shown through commercials and speeches. I am suggesting that you have for yourself 2 to 3 commercials and 2 to 3 speeches. You want to think about what film techniques and language techniques do politicians use that show a particular quality. So what quality is being shown and why those qualities are effective. The big thing is this second sentence right here. Consider if you think that the image this politician is setting for themselves is real, or is it a created image, like some sort of false image that they're using in order to make people think a way about them that maybe isn't altogether true. That's the big question that I want you to think about with those speeches and commercials. Okay, so some background sources that you're going to eventually need for this. Not necessarily for the timed right, but things that you want to think about. You want to think about what Machiavelli said in The Prince about whether it is better to be loved than feared. You want to think about what Gilmore and Reif said in The Modern Machiavelli about how Machiavellian leadership characteristics play a role in today's politicians. And then I've also included on this slideshow 2 extra links for you. One about the United States election process and how it works. And there's one about the benefits and the problems with the 2-party system. Those will also be necessary for you. You also can include your own research. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as you're adding more background to your timed right, after you write your timed right. So the evidence that you're going to use to support your reasoning for this timed right is going to be from those commercials from the Living Room Candidate. Speeches, remember there's the Trump speech, the Obama speech, and the Kennedy speech, which are linked for you on your class plans. And then you needed to choose one other speech to kind of have as a background. And then any kind of websites, articles, and things from background to help prove your claims. You can have that in there as well. Okay, so paper is going to be organized in classical argumentation organization, just like major paper 1. No difference in that organization. So you'll have an introduction and a background section. Your background section is specific in that you're not choosing like what random things you're throwing into your background this time around. This time specifically, your background should include historical information about the political process in the United States and the pitfalls and benefits of the democratic process, things like the Electoral College, things like the 2-party system, and how that plays a part in our democratic process. You're going to be ending your introduction and background with your thesis, a split thesis. Now remember, a split thesis is where you give the opposing side first. Although many people believe X, it is easy to see that Y. So you have the opposing side and what they believe at first in the split thesis, and then you have your side as the second part of the split thesis. The confirmation section is going to be your argumentative timed right. So that's the thing you're going to be doing when we get together in class next, which is going to be including your claims supported by evidence from the speeches, commercials, and information from outside sources. The background is something that you're going to add, not the thesis, you'll have that in your timed right, but the background is going to be something that you're going to add before you turn in your first draft. That's going to be the tweak to the timed right that you're going to be making. And another thing that you're going to be adding, or that you should consider having in your timed right, but you might need to expand on, is your refutation, concession, and rebuttal. What are the opposing arguments to your side? So you're going to choose a side, and you have to think, no, what would the other side say about that? And how would I argue against that? Just like your political speeches, your presidential speeches that you're making, how would someone argue against you as a leader? Now you're thinking, how would someone argue against my side of this argument? Remember, conclusion, I hate summary conclusions. You will not get a lot of points for them. You're thinking big picture. How is this topic relevant to today? And you want to think about tying this information to the 2020 election, because that's the most relevant moment in our world today as far as politics are concerned. Okay, so here are the draft 2 due dates and requirements. So your first draft is going to be your timed right that you're going to be doing, and you're going to be adding a background to it, including working the Google citation tools and starting to get together your references. That's going to be included in there. That will be due Monday, November 23rd by midnight, so before you leave for Thanksgiving. Draft 2 will be due tentative due date is December 6th. It just depends how quickly I can get those first drafts turned in and back to you. I want to give you enough time to do kind of changes. So you'll be doing any kind of corrections and then adding any additional research or analysis or things like that that I suggest for you. And then you'll need to have your works cited page for the draft 2, basically a finished draft at that point. And then the final draft, probably the due date is going to be December 17th, so that I have time over Christmas break to grade those, since it's a huge part of your semester grade. So that will be draft 1 and draft 2 corrections. Again, that's optional if you don't like your grade on the first draft. All right, the rubric is included for you right now on daily class plans and also on here. So if you want to kind of look at that rubric and understand like what you need to do, we'll be looking at it more specifically once we do the timed right and we get on with that. Make sure you're getting support from multiple sources and that you have a good works cited page at the very end by pressing that insert bibliography button. All right, that is the introduction to Major Paper 2 for you. We'll be talking a little bit more about it before you begin your timed right the next class period that we meet, to kind of get you prepared for getting into that timed right and doing a really good job on it. All right, thank you very much, and I'm going to end recording.